Well, g'day and welcome to another Mongrel Dog production, and welcome to this, what can sometimes be difficult and challenging Holland Track, which links the Port of Albany through to the goldfields of Western Australia. Grab your gear, let's go. Well, just on my way to a small town called Katanning. The trip leader, a bloke by the name of Russell, he's decided to get everybody to meet a couple of hours south of Perth. It just saves trying to keep a convoy together in amongst what can be sometimes heavy traffic with lots of trucks and road trains and stuff. So yeah, it's about 2 or 3 hours south of Perth. I'm just outside of Katanning now, should be there within a few minutes.
Over the years, all the presidents were called Trippy, John McMahon and Miller.
Hello, slackers. Right, we're leaving the start point Katanning now. Big group. 12 or 13 cars, and there'll be the idea of this trip is that people can hop on and hop off during the trip. And
on the Broom Hill Road, Russell.
So I believe we're meeting another 2 or 3 in a couple of days' time at the beginning of the Holland Track. I'm not sure where we're going to end up this evening, but the first port of call is a little town called Broom Hill, and that's where the Holland Track actually started back in the day. A lot of it has been consumed by farmland now, but yeah, so we'll go to Broom Hill and have a look. Oh, this surprises me. We've only just left Broom Hill, which is the start of the Holland Track, and I thought the track went through a lot of farmland for the first couple of hundred k's, but we've already hit the dirt on what is the Holland Track walking trail. So yeah, like I say, I'm a little surprised. I expected to be on the blacktop for a day or two. And so ends day one. We found a spot near the Holland Tank. I'm not quite sure what significance that has. But anyway, yeah, this afternoon we've covered about 160 kilometres to get to this point. So yeah, from here we'll light the fire, and that'll become the social focus for the rest of the evening, I think. Well, morning of day two, fairly relaxed start to the day. Up early because of sunrise and birds and cows and the like. I'm not quite sure where we end up today. Clearly we're heading towards Hyden. We're supposed to meet up with a small group tomorrow, I think, joining us at the junction of the Hyden and Norseman Road plus the Holland Track. So yeah, not quite sure where we're going to bush camp this evening. Hard to believe that this is the actual Holland Track where these poor pricks used to wheel all their possessions from Albany up to the goldfields at Coolgardie.
We'll keep driving. Yeah, you just want a big bag to throw and zip it up.
Well, it's pretty early. It's just gone 2 o'clock. We've only covered about 140 kilometres today, but we're going to pull up only because we're meeting somebody else later on, or a small group of others later on. So yeah, we can't afford to get any further down the track than where we are. So yeah, we're pulling up now at a place called Emu Rock. Today's been pretty seamless. A couple of minor four-wheel drive tracks, but nothing serious. Mostly good formed gravel roads. I thought we were by ourselves, but we're not. There's a couple of cars down there. Across there's a bloke chopping wood. You might be able to hear that. And of course there's our group down there. Well, morning of day 3, we've left for the morning. Yesterday afternoon and last night we were joined by others. Geez, I don't know, we must have about 16 cars in the convoy now. We're not very far from the Hyden to Norseman Road. We'll cross that in a few minutes and in fact get on the Holland Track proper, what a lot of people do the Holland Track for. Some of us have already aired down to about 25 psi, just to save doing that later on. And I guess I should explain exactly what the Holland Track is all about. When the gold rush was happening here in Western Australia, a lot of blokes looking to make their fortune arrived at Albany in the southwest of Western Australia. And instead of going up to Perth and then heading east across to the goldfields, some bloke by the name of John Holland actually ploughed a track through the bush straight to the goldfields from Albany. And these poor saps would end up moving all their possessions by wheelbarrow through the bush for the hundreds of kilometres just to get to the goldfields. The track was closed for many years. Was since reopened by the Land Cruiser Club of WA. And if you want to challenge yourself, then the Holland Track, certainly after rain, can provide some entertainment. Anyway, we'll get to the track proper and take it from there. been on the track for about, call it 3 minutes. We've already done a tyre.
Is it?
Well, it was Richard who had to, he's punctured the sidewall. It's not a big hole, and he's in fact plugged it already. Yeah, very, very efficient. We had to pull over to let a vehicle by, and yeah, he's staked the sidewall doing that. Well, I mentioned earlier about this track after rain. There's quite a few bog holes. Most have chicken tracks, you know, an easier option to go around them. My bloke didn't see the chicken track and he drove in it and ended up getting stuck. So that was the first recovery job of the trip. What's happened, mate?
Oh, the alternator.
We've got one who's just done the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck.
I tried to tow someone out and I stalled. So that's it, couldn't get it started again. So
Good luck.
yeah, cheers, mate.
Well, another group in front of us suffered the same thing. They've fried one of their alternators. One of the blokes within the group, our group, knows a little bit about this sort of stuff, and he's going to pull alongside and hopefully flush out the mud and the crap that's in the alternator before it turns to rock. And now it's starting to rain. You can see the water line, how deep the car was in the water. Water got inside as well, and unfortunately they've not been able to flush out the alternator, so at the moment it's not charging. It's two cars in the same hole. Time to look at options, especially for Dean in front here because he's got the trailer. Now we've got two stuck, the recoverer and the recovery.
I'm a bit worried about the shadow. Oh no!
Too much straight.
Yeah, it'll be alright. Yeah. As long as the car doesn't slide in the hole. You've got to feel sorry for those guys. They're heading in the opposite direction. They got two cars under tow. Both have got a guts full of water. So clearly they've been trying some of the deeper crossings, I guess. And yeah, hydraulic the engines. You wouldn't want to be under tow in conditions like this. Well, this is the Mount Holland campsite. We're going to stay here this evening. We haven't come very far at all today, probably about, I don't know, 54, 60 kilometres perhaps. Some of the going's been pretty tough. A couple of vehicles got stuck, a couple of vehicles got bogged, had to be towed out, and we've met a few vehicles coming towards us as well, and a couple of those, as you saw, were being towed. So yeah, pretty tough conditions, slow going. Bit of rain, which didn't help. But anyway, we're going to stay here tonight. It's a fairly well established campground here, certainly big enough to accommodate the 15 or 16 vehicles that we've got in the group.
Give it a little bit of RPM, mate. Nah, you got no charge at all.
Well, Ray, the guy who got stuck earlier today and drowned his alternator. His alternator's not charging. They've just put a voltmeter on it and it's not charging. Not much room under bonnets anymore.
Your handbrake's on, yeah?
Do they need to work, or can you run them one?
They've removed the front wheel so they can get access to the alternator in the hope that they can have a look at it and maybe, I don't know, clean it out a bit so that at least we can get him back to Perth. Well, thankfully one of the blokes within the group, Darren, he knows a thing or two about a thing or two. They've removed the front wheel only to give them access to the alternator. They're going to pull the alternator off and then have a look at that and I guess, I don't know, clean it up as best they can in the hope they can get it to at least charge enough for him to get back to Perth.
Bloody plastic.
No, not the
Round thing.
In there.
We can drop off.
Well, these guys continue to work. It's nearly sunset now. They've been working on it for a couple of hours. There's just not enough room under there to pull the alternator out without removing half of the front end. So they've dismantled the alternator in location and pulled out the bits they need to clean. So they're doing everything they can to get this car back on the road, but yeah, I don't know whether they're going to be successful or not.
Release the water.
Well done.
Well, lots of back slapping and high fiving. The charge light is no longer on, and yeah, the alternator's doing what alternators are supposed to do. So that's a great outcome. Good on the boys for doing the hard yards and yeah, working on and getting it done. Well, Ray's decided to go back to Perth. He didn't get a lot of sleep last night thinking about the repair. The blokes who did it said it's as good as a permanent repair, but from here Ray was going to continue further outback and up to far north Queensland. And that would have been playing on his mind the whole time, because if he gets in the middle of bumfuck nowhere and it packs it in, he'll be screwed. So he's decided to go back to Perth. Well, morning of day 4, down one. Ray had to return to Perth, of course, to get that alternator sorted out. I'm not quite sure. I think tonight we're supposed to end up at Victoria Rocks campsite. I'm not sure how we're going to go, because some of the conditions will continue to be quite tough, I think. And I think it's probably about 120 kilometres to the camp, so we'll see how we go. It's currently a long weekend here in Western Australia, and because of that, this track is seeing more traffic than it ordinarily would on it any given day of the week or on the weekend. So yeah, when you've got 3 days, it's a good opportunity to go and do the track from start to finish. Yeah, and that's why it's a little bit busier this time around than it would be ordinarily. Oh dear, another casualty of the conditions. So in 25 words or less, what happened?
This obviously wasn't latching properly in the thing, come out, took the bark out of the tree and bent this.
Have you filled in a lost luggage before?
Ouch. And that's what the fridge slide hit. That's a pretty solid hit. And here's another casualty, only this time because of the corrugations. There's supposed to be a light in there. Been another day of different conditions, some very tricky bits and some not so very tricky bits. And it's been really busy on the track, and a number of vehicles that we've come across have actually broken down. Guys with their bonnets up and crawling under cars, checking things out. Well, it's that time of the day where we start looking for a bush camp. We never made Victoria Rocks, and I thought it was a big ask to try and make that sort of distance at the pace we've been going. But anyway, we'll find a bush camp and then start setting up. Morning of day 5. We should be clear of the Holland Track later on this morning, and from there we'll head to Coolgardie. Most of us will need fuel and perhaps some supplies. Some will actually be leaving the group today. Today's a public holiday, and some will need to return to Perth because they have work or other commitments from tomorrow. So some will leave the group later on this morning, probably once we get to Coolgardie. the end of what is the Holland Track. We're going to join on to what's known as Victoria Rocks Road and then head towards Coolgardie. We've spent 3 days, 2 nights doing this track. And today has been no different than the other times. There's been some deep holes and a lot of water, so yeah, you certainly wouldn't want to be out here during winter time or after heavy rain, because you might end up spending a week out here. Well, that's the Holland Track done and dusted. That's been tough going, very tough in places. We're now on Victoria Rocks Road. If we continue heading north, that'll take us to Coolgardie. And look, if this is the final approach, you know what that means. See you on the other side.